Alrighty, hello everyone. Welcome to Cineful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the grey. Today, let's just hobby, hang, chat. Been a hot minute since we've managed to get one of these and keep them on the regular. So I'm happy. Got some hobby to do tonight. I'm going to be continuing to work on the Wadran Slingers. If you're joining us, let us know what hobby you're doing or what you're up to. Love to hear from everyone, but we're going to be tackling these guys and hopefully getting them finished in the next couple of days because we've been doing them for a bit. I've been a little bit distracted this past week. We've got stuff going on, but now I've got some hobby time, so let's get these finished. First of all, let's start a dip brush. Revan, hello mate, how are we? Gorgeous. Yeah, I would want to get them. I can't say I know when I'll get them or anything like that. No idea on that front. I really like it. I mean, I was in on that set knowing what the other half was. Like wherever those Wilder Corp hunters came in, I was going to get them. So, I need to. Yeah, I'm very much a Crusher Stampede person. Like my two, although I do like the Vanguard organism one, it's a mix. So some of my favorite Tyranid stuff are Raveners, but also like stuff like the Carnifexes and all that sort of stuff. I think with the force we've got sitting around here for the channel, we're much more likely to see a more balanced force. Um, just I've not really got anything to lean into with what I've got as an army here. I probably I could go a little bit Crusher Stampede. I mean, I've got old One Eye, an Exocrine, a other big gun totting one. Not the Tervagon, the other version. The other I've got the version of the Tervagon. I've got the Exocrine, Screamer Killer, Old One Eye, Trigon, Psychophage, Swarm Lord. All right. So I could go one of the Crusher Stampede, but yeah. Tyrannifex, that's the one. Thank you. Um, so yeah, got that. So be quite interested to see what I can do with that. But then I've got like heaps of Gaunts, Gene Stillers. I've got a unit of Zonothropes, a bunch of other stuff. I've got Hive Tyrants of all varieties. I've got one on foot, one winged, one Swarm Lord. And I've got obviously the Neuro Tyrant because we have Leviathan. But yeah. And yeah, Yummy Lumps. I'm super going to be keen on getting the Gorges. One of my favorite stories of ogres from back in the day is Scrag the Slaughterer and how he sort of used to be able to command Gorges, which was really cool. Speaking of that, I have his old model to paint up for my Ogre More tribes at some point. As with so many things, I've got stuff. It's a matter of just getting time to paint it in amongst all the new stuff that comes out. Um, I think it's fun. Like AOS is interesting because AOS you honestly don't need a wide variety of units to have a feasible army, and trogs are relatively expensive. Um, I mean, like 3 units, you're talking like that's Fire Slayers, that's most Ideneth armies, that's most Daughters of Cain armies, um, that's most Sylvaneth armies, even. A lot of armies don't have more units than that, or like don't regularly use more units than that. On that note, though, I have been trying something like when we've been doing armies on the channel. Not sure if you've seen recently the few last battle reports. We've been playing like smaller 1,000 point games, and we've been trying to, for the most part, play Highlander. Um, and if for those who don't know what Highlander is, it's a Magic the Gathering term, but it's an idea that your deck contains no duplicates. Um, so we've been trying to do that a lot on the channel, on like just trying not to play with like duplicate units unless it's like battle line options, obviously, or they're a faction that doesn't really have a choice but to play with duplicates. But been definitely trying to play with like lots of different units on the channel to make the battle reports more interesting, so you can all see like more different units on the tabletop. Because like there's plenty of places that do battle reports where they've got 5 of the best unit on the table. Um, just trying to do something a little bit different. I do love Gloomspike Gits. I think on the table, Gloomspike Gits are one of the nicest looking armies. They just have this unique look to them. And even like GW Studio armies are super nice as well. Like the fact that the squigs are red, the trolls generally are like that bluey, and obviously got the green mix from the river trolls and stuff like that, or fell waters, whatever you want to call them. But they do look really, really cool. I think Gloomspike Gits are a fantastic looking army when you've got everything on the table. Because GW, even GW's ones like the spiders, they do that lighter shade of green. And all the feathers and stuff bring out some nice, vibrant, bright colors to them. I think on the table they just look amazing when you've got a mixed force of kits. Um, some of the minis are old for kits. I don't think the Fellwater Trogoffs look honestly that bad. They're one of my favorite kits. It's hard because like I'm from that era of fantasy. Like that's really when I was really involved as like a kid. That's the times I remember those later editions, say 6th to 8th edition fantasy, and then like 5th to like 7th edition 40k. That's when like my childhood, when before I had like probably my little bit of a drop off in those earlier editions, and before I started doing YouTube, like those teen years of Warhammer. So like so much of that is looked back very fondly in miniature wise. So I probably do have a bit of a rose tinted glasses there when it comes to minis from that era. Hades, how are we, mate? Good to see you. Been a little hot minute. Oh, yeah, I like Hades. Those reviews. I think I said it in like our little catch-up show. I can't remember the last time I was like so happy with a review show. Like everything as well. Like everything hit. Like both like Iron Jaws. I'm not an awfully big orc person, but I really like seeing Iron Jaws get a nice, solid update. The Trog dude was really cool. Obviously, Dawnbringer was probably my favorite part of the AOS personally, is because I like those narrative book supplements. But yeah, like super, super happy to see Iron Jaws like get an expanse. Because like for me, that's like the first like major expansion of like those armies from that early those early editions. Bar like it's actually the second because Sylvaneth got like a big obviously expansion with their last release as well, didn't they? I think that's something the old like it's not something we see in Warhammer in general a lot, is it? Like beautiful models. And there are very few factions that I think can really give us that beautiful look. Um, that unicorn is confirmed to be resin. Um, so that was something, and that's fine. Like resin can be done really nicely. And going off their Horus Heresy series, so that was something they really heavily stated on the live show was that character there. Um, um, is going to be part of like a character series similar to the Horus Heresy character series, which is really, really cool because the models in the Horus Heresy character series are amazing. And they're like a better quality resin than they normally do for a bunch of their stuff. They're like really well worked models. So super, super excited to see that as a thing. And it's been a like set of minis like that for Old World is what I've been saying I wanted to see for the game for since its inception. Um, yeah, I was really happy with Underworlds. I've got to say, yeah, Underworlds was a good run. Like there was nothing that was a miss. Like I like the heresy stuff. Derrideo dreadnoughts are cool. Seeing the last of those main sort of three heresy dreadnoughts was fun. The iron armor is cool because that's just synonymous with some legions. But also like getting a box of iron armor and a Derrideo and a land raider in there for a cool way to build and start up a force is awesome. The fact that box also contains special weapon kits as well, so you can equip some units with special weapons, is a really cool like addition to it. So you can have iron armor troops. You can have 2 units of 10, and then you can have your other troop. I like Cities of Sigma. I think there's a lot to be had with that book. I think so much of the focus will be on particular things, just because that's where people are going to like a lot of the chatter online has been about particular units, obviously, and there are some very standout good units, but I think there is a lot of flavor to that book. I've been having so much fun building up and doing the videos for it. Yeah, I like. I think we'll see a Steam, like, obviously, I think the stuff maybe that will get replaced eventually out of that is probably the Dark Elves, though they've really built up the story for the Dark Elves in Age of Sigmar. Like, the Dark Elves have been a major part of the story, unlike, Wanderers never really got a major story arc. The Dark Elves part of it obviously was very important to the whole Marathi story. So it'll be interesting to see where we go with the Dark Elves continuing to be a part of it. See how that goes in the future. For now, don't care. Like, quite happy with where we've gone. Yeah, Hades, those Armor Namadi, like, we've heard plenty of stuff about them, like sort of Namadi guards. Funnily enough, just finishing, like, by the sounds of it, it definitely sounds like those Namadi sound like they look like how some of the Namadi in the Children of Tekla story were portrayed. The more armored Namadi guards. It probably, yeah, I definitely get that feeling, Hades. I think that is maybe a drawback of it. Like, I like the overall story. I agree. Like, I think the story in general is really cool. I do think out of the Lumineth stories, like the three main Lumineth stories we've gotten from Black Library, I think he is probably the weakest of the three. And the strongest would obviously be End of Enlightenment, which is one of the best AOS stories I think they've released in general. Of course it is, because it's done by Richard Strachan, who just continues to be, I think, one of the best Black Library authors at current. Boarding Patrol, I think, will turn to Vanguard. I think these... okay. I won't say too much about it. It's a good story. I do think it picks up at the end. There's definitely some bits of it that are very satisfying in the story arc. But yeah, Revan, is the boarding patrol so well? Boarding patrol's doing really well from everything I've heard from stores that are running campaigns and stuff like that. The boarding patrol is really, really doing well. And I don't think you'll see a lot of people talk about it online, because it's not like I mean, it's balanced obviously in that mode, but it's not what tournament players are going to go play. Boarding Patrol, it is very much a beginner friendly, two friends get into the game and pick up the boxes. But it is really, really popular. Local GW stores are like doing it. I know there's been a massive uptick in sales in local stores for boarding patrol boxes. Like, they can't keep up their stock levels of them at the moment, because people are buying their hobby a little bit different with it, which I think was something I always said was going to be the interesting part of it, where people change how they collect their hobby with boarding patrol. It's no longer needing to go deep into a faction. You're no longer, with boarding patrol being a thing. If you're a new person in the hobby, right, and you've got this hobby community that plays normal 40k, but also plays boarding patrol as well, and most experienced or long-time gamers, your main army, you will probably have the Vanguard or boarding patrol just sitting there. Like I would say for nearly ages, every Age of Sigma army, I don't think I've picked up all that many of the Vanguard boxes because they've come out after, obviously, like I've started collecting armies. But I've got most Vanguard box sets just by chance. And same with 40k, I've got like a lot of my armies. I have the combat patrol boxes just because I have them already because I have large armies of those forces that I have. And so it is interesting, like how that's going to go because you can change that sort of next way you get into the hobby with those box sets. You don't have to go, oh, I've got an Eldar combat patrol now. I need to buy all the other Eldar units I want. Instead, I can go, I've got an Eldar combat patrol. I feel like playing a different army now. I'm going to go buy the Adeptus Mechanicus combat patrol. And then my next one is going to be the Space Marines combat patrol because I can play it in those different manners. Like I can collect a different way now, which is cool. Yeah, Hades, I think that could have been really fun. They've definitely gone for a very town guard pious sort of feel, I think, with the cities now. Alias, hello, thank you very much. Glad you enjoy the channel. Glad it's been helpful, mate. It's exactly what we set out to try and be, somewhere to get people into the first sort of steps into miniature wargaming in general. Sadly, that is the way they do stuff. Hades, like it is very much GW very much work on the idea of they make models and then they make them fit. What do you mean rate on the current Dawnbringer box? The new. What do you mean by rate? What do you? Yeah, what am I rating it for? Yeah, I'd make it interesting. Like, I admit, I am quite interested to maybe look at starting an AdMech force myself. They're definitely one of those armies that constantly just sort of pops up on my radar of like, ooh, who do I want to? But combat patrol, that's where you go. You get a combat patrol and you scratch that itch. Out of the new cities book, what are your top 3 cool looking units? I mean, rules aside, I mean, anyone who's watched the channel knows exactly what my answer is going to be. And I know a couple of these guys have been a couple of long time viewers. I'm pretty sure they, Hades and Revan, both know the 3 units I'm going to answer with. That would be the Blackheart Fleetmaster, the Blackheart Corsairs, and the Charybdis. My 3 favorite units from cities. Number 4 would be the Scourge Runner Chariot. Oh, hey, Ronya. Nice to see you there. What game were you playing, buddy? I saw you playing a game, but I never got uh uh of the new stuff. All right, Hades. What game were you playing, Ronya? And what were you playing with and against? Oh, nice. Out of the new cities units, I think my favorite model is yeah, out of the new cities units, I think my favorite model is probably the Alchemite Warforger, followed by the Freegood Cavaliers and the Cavalier Marshal. I do like her. She would probably be number 4. Oh, actually, no. Number one. Number one is without a doubt Manticore Lady. Graffiti, we are painting some Wadrun slingers for Conquest Last Argument of Kings. Cruel Boys list. Um, I mean, I think that's a pretty decent Cruel Boys list, all things said. They're definitely in a place of struggle at the moment, but I think that's like a fun. That's playing to the Cruel Boys' strengths there. AOS Minion. What would that be? Where's that? New Angels making consider. That is fair. They are cool. Yeah, the new Ard Boys definitely going do look amazing. I think that was the biggest surprise for me was that they actually updated the Ard Boys. It is about time, but normally they like punching out new kids at the moment. Like I'm still quite surprised. Like I was surprised with the Sylvaneth release, we didn't get like updated Dryads. Or who would win law wise? Angels or Madrid? That's going to be a close one because like both things are completely built to beat up. Um, I would say right. So we've got to look at this. Let's look at a Wadrun line troop. So like a Wadrun brave verse would be the equivalent of. I think it would be a really fun fight. Because Wadrun are interesting. Every time they fight the Iron Jaws, they would take a little bit of the Iron Jaws with them. So that's Wadrun's big thing. They have no culture because obviously they were created to defend a particular spire's place. And when the spires sort of abandoned them and left them to their own devices, the Wadrun began uh, um, taking on, like when they fought someone, they would take a little bit of the culture with them And so that's something you can consider for Wadrun. While the Ironjaws will scavenge and sort of take cool stuff, the Wadrun will actually incorporate that culture into them. So I think on the base fighter, I think an Ardboy would be beaten by a base Wadrun. I think Brutes would probably beat veterans. And the Wadrun don't really have anything to combat a Mega Boss in like a one-on-one fight. But the sort of like things like Warbread would definitely fight a Mega Boss toe to toe. And then it's like mount wise, I think the Wadrun win mount wise. Like the Maw Crush is pretty good, but like I think a giant T-Rex is probably just as powerful, and the Tontor as well. And Raptor Riders probably beat Gore Grunters. Yeah, Ardboys aren't true 100s yet. I think it would be close. I think the like size advantage. I think Wadrun are probably more organized. So in probably a pitched battle, I think the Wadrun could maybe outdo the Ironjaws tactic wise. But I think like in a straight up punch between two, Ironjaws would probably win. Conquest also isn't quite as lethal as Age of Sigmar. It's not quite as magically infused a world. So that's something to like consider as well. Like Conquest is a little bit less. It's the thing with Age of Sigmar. Not a lot of fantasies will come close to Age of Sigmar. For the same reason, not a lot of sci-fi comes close to 40k because it's just such a magical universe. Mega Boss and War Crusher. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. It's like they don't really have some like the Mega Boss would be countered by like things like Warbread. The Maw Crusher would have to be a like T-Rex would have to be the apex predator. But the apex predator and a Warbread don't go together. Pretty interesting to see after coming into contact with Ironjaws how the Wadrun envelop that society into their own. That would be like the cool part of like what happened after that fight. You can hear that? That's someone going crazy on their motorbike around them. um, I'm probably not the one to like talk to about hobby budgeting because like it's interesting, like because doing this for a full-time job, budgeting and like the fact so much stuff comes in for discounted or for free to the channel, I don't really have to budget for my hobby. I mean, like my hobby budget most months consists of maybe buying $50 worth of paint, tools, supplies, glue, etc., sprays, and a white dwarf. I don't really have to budget for my hobby. So I'm probably not the best one to do a video on budgeting for my hobby. And it's an interesting one because people always see like Australian prices for Warhammer and they assume like it's so hard to get here, but it's really not because like our minimum wage here is insane compared to like other places. Like I think our minimum wage even got increased recently as well. I think it's like 22 something now. which is not helping in the current financial stress for a lot of people that are really struggling. But yeah, it's definitely a thing. Like, I like that we've got the free supplement. I hope it is something that continues. Like, we don't have to buy new battle tomes. I like this later in an edition, not having to buy a second battle tome. This is why I sort of am iffy. Are Feck going to get a battle tome? I, the more I've played other games, the less and less I like battle tomes as an idea, like a place to get your rules. I just don't like it. But free supplements will always get a pass in my books. Like, it's an interesting one because like battle tomes, obviously a big part of them is the lore, right? And yeah, I don't know if we'll ever get one. And I said this on stream when we were streaming the other day during the thing, and there was a couple of people that were wanting Fleshy to Courts. We're a bit disappointed when we didn't see Fleshy to Court stuff, and rightfully so. Like, they've had a bit of time to wait for them. But like, my thing was, like, you're this late in an edition now. We know we're getting an edition next year. Would you rather a book that's going to be immediately the old edition book in 8 months' time, or would you rather wait 9 or 10 months and be the first book after the like, be a new edition book, be right in the middle of the thick of it, straight after? Oh, that was the tree outside. It's quite windy here. So, but yeah, would you rather be that new, right in the mix, like Maggie Kitanoga? Would you rather be in that place in a new edition? Like, if I was with Tech, I'd rather just, at this point, wait another 9 to 10 months and get a book that is ready and properly working with a new edition. Yeah, I mean, they're running out of things to bring into the game now as well. Like, I think we've maybe got two factions that they've said a lot about. That is Chaos Dwarves and Malarian's Force. And I still have an inkling. Like, I don't know whether Malarian will get his own army, or whether he goes into a combined tome with Daughters of Cain. It's not the first time we've seen multiple gods. Like, obvious, whenever we get Kernothi, they're going to go into a Sylvaneth book. Tyrion and Checkless are both going to be in Lumineth. Like, it would not surprise me if Malarian and Marathi shared a Daughters of Cain or Umbraneth book. James, it's going well, mate. How are you? Hope you're doing well yourself. So, I don't know whether we see a full army of silent people, just because, like, we haven't heard of a full army of them. They could, but like I'm thinking like factions where I think like they've got like a full range. Then again, like they out of nowhere they brought Leagues of Votan in, but for 40k. But yeah, I don't see a new faction coming for Age of Sigmar. That's not Malarian or Chaos Dwarves anytime soon. Hmm. I think that's like is that what you're saying there? It's like AOS when is like at its best when it's pulling from like when it's making its own things. Couldn't agree more. And that is why I don't want Cities of Sigmar to be the main focus of AOS. I like the fact there is a human faction in AOS. There is a generic faction, but I like that it's not the main source. I like that Stormcast are the main focus. That this truly Age of Sigmar specific thing is the focus. And for anyone who says Stormcast is Space Marines has never read Stormcast lore. They are so utterly different to Space Marines. It's not funny. Um, like because like there's one big difference. Stormcast are human. Um, like for anyone who hasn't like people go, oh, I want Caesar Sigma to be front and center, but it's like no. Stormcast are human. Like they have fear, they have regret, they have love, all of that. Like there are stories that clearly indicate Stormcast have love. Um, um, so yeah, like they're a faction. Like you can, and I think like they definitely got hurt in the initial sort of stories. I I don't know whether I want the Siege of Azir, um, or like this early because like it feels like that is something they can do to really shake up the realm when AOS lore gets stale. Like that's the big lever they can pull on. That is the psychic awakening. Um, yeah, Hades exactly. Siege of Azir is that end times level event. That is that lever when I think iOS gets stale as a setting, you pull on to revitalize your setting. It is that psychic, maybe not end times, probably the return of Gilliman. That is exactly what it is. That is that lever you pull then. Because like why do we need to do Siege of Azir? We've literally only explored 3 realms, 4 realms, really, in the time. And one of them briefly. So we've had like Chamon, we've had the Realm of Metal, we've had quite a bit happen in the Realm of Metal. To be fair, obviously that's where Galmaraz was found, Vindicarum, and the whole Bellicor and the Broken Sky stuff happened there. Obviously, Guy Ran and Akshi were the 2 main sort of original focuses of the world, and then obviously we've had the Realm of Beast now. We're definitely getting a lot of Realm of Light, Realm of Death stuff as well. We've obviously had Death. So it's like we've still got the Realm of Shadow. We still could go back and actually have some proper stuff happening in Chamon, proper stuff in Light, and go back to Fire and like Life and see how they've taken on. Yeah, and like I don't get why you would need to sack Azir though. Like I think sacking Azir, like I don't mind an assault of Azir. Yeah, Chamon needs a proper look. We've obviously had bits and pieces of Chamon. We've had the Vindicarum story for Bellicor. know that like the Gloomspite Gits live there. We know Caradron focus heavily in there, um, and obviously Galmaraz and the Hanging Valleys of Amnutok. Um, but yeah, we haven't really explored Shimon properly. We've had all these stories in it, but no real like campaign in it. And yeah, Revan, like I don't know whether I ever want Azir sacked ever. Um, I think the Assault of Azir is a big enough event. Um, uh, but like I think Azir being this safe haven, being this beacon of purity and all that, gives Age of Sigma something that 40k doesn't have, and that is that beacon of hope. Like Age of Sigma is a hopeful universe, and I hope they don't continue to go too far down the grim dark line with Age of Sigma because I like that Age of Sigma is a universe where you can have hope. You're human and you can dream of a better world because of Azir. Like Order has succeeded with Azir. Yeah, Azir simply being attacked will be enough of a shock. I don't think you need to sack it in any way. I think the whole assault of Azir, I mean, it's. Hmm. I Speaking of like making more Dwarden, I'm really excited to see where we go with Fire Slayers now, because Iron Jaws were the other army like Fire Slayers. They were the ones with a very limited model range. In fact, they had 3 units. They had Brutes, they had Gore Grunters, they had Hardboys. And Fire Slayers obviously have 3 units as well. They have Hearthguard, Berserkers, they have Auric Hearthguard, and they have Volkite Berserkers. Obviously, 3 much more similar units, but they still only have 3. Um, um, Age of Sigma is effectively, if you timed it with 40k, Age of Sigma is the Great Crusade. Yeah, like I'm completely fine with Dwarven mages. Like they're Dwarven, they're not dwarves. And I think some of the best things that have happened in Age of Sigma for some of the factions, getting away from that Tolkien-esque fantasy has been something truly a breath of fresh air. Like I love Lord of the Rings. Like make no mistake, and I love Tolkien fantasy. I grew up with those ideas and concepts of Tolkien fantasy, being the bedrock for probably what made me fall in love with Warhammer in the first place. But I think like I it is one of the coolest things about Conquest, and Age of Sigmar does the same thing. It's why I think the games are so cool is they break tropes. I mean, even in Warhammer Fantasy, it's why my 2 favorite um, things were Skaven, which are just so completely out there and wacky, and like later edition Fantasy Wood Elves, when they truly started to be, these savage huntsmen. Like that part of the Wood Elves has always been my favorite, like the Wild Riders and all that. And Orion have always been part of my favorite. Like this whole seasonal savage hunter sort of aspect has always been my favorite part of Wood Elves. Skaven is so uniquely Warhammer. True. And even like Seraphon, Lizardmen back in the day, like they were very much their own thing. There's not a lot of like lizard things like them. I think those, and like Slan is another great one as well. That's why I've been liking Kings of War a lot lately. I think Kings of War have really started to stop being where we are the not Warhammer fantasy game. They've started building their own world, their own lore, and the game's become much more interesting to me. Um, Also, the Twilight King, that looked really cool. Yeah, I mean, hey, but like seeing that in a fantasy idea is cool. I mean, because Skaven's whole thing is they're like mad scientists. That is the core concept of them. Very Frankensteinian, mad scientist sort of vibes. I do like the Seraphon, like the more techie look they've given, like things like the slant and stuff like that. Um, I do like the idea of the Teapot lances on their riders that are like these magically charged lance mauls that they have, if lance mauls could ever be a thing. I don't know if they will. I think one of like the interesting things to remember with like Underworlds is there is sometimes just it is a time to be just weird and wacky and then have those little one-offs. I think the only time we're probably going to see an Underworlds thing truly expanded upon is probably Kernothi because we've seen other bits, we've heard other bits of them, and also the response to Kernothi was huge. Um, if they weren't thinking of making more Kernothi when that warband got released, they were. They are now, or they were after it. Exile Dead are really cool though. I love them. I think Underworlds just continues to make amazing minis. Speaking of Underworlds, I did finish painting up my Iron Skulls boys the other day. My first Iron Jaws models I've ever actually painted. It was really fun. True, those weren't like original concepts though. All those things, oh, the brutes were. But yeah, finished painting up Iron Skulls boys. They were a lot of fun. But yeah, the Exile did it interesting because like Dean Talos is a like very different sort of like he's a vampire. That's also another thing people don't realize with the Exiled Dead is that that dude's a vampire. Don Talos is a vampire. Yep. I still st- I still stand by my thing of this whole Regiments Renown thing should have just been the Underworld's warbands. I would have loved to see like your ability to be able, like, so imagine like the abilities that they grant, right? Their spells and all that. Imagine if the Underworld's warbands could just cast them on whatever army they join. You could create such an interesting like mechanic of like these cool warbands joining a force and going, "Hey, I'm a Fire Slayer priest. I take a Fire Slayer's priest and now give it to different armies." I, I don't know what to think of Black Talon. For me, that Black Talon warband, like that is Warcry. That fits so well in Warcry. Kernothi, I mean, we've seen other Kernothi. So I have it on good authority from back in the day that there were no plans to expand and make Kernothi a full thing when they launched. That opinion apparently drastically changed with how the community reacted to seeing them. So there were no other Kernothi made at the time of Skaith's Wild Hunt coming out. Um, yeah, like I think the Kernothi are going to be a mixed bag, because they did in later publications start referring to Wanderers as so referring to some Wanderers as Kernothi. Um, I think Kernothi is more what something is rather than the actual race. They're sort of worshippers of Kernoth rather than the Beast Elves or whatever. Because there's also been Kernoth hunters referred to as Kernothi. But yeah, I think a Warcry warband is probably what I think Black Talon will be. Pre-orders, I mean, they did state that Space Marines were going to be very quick off the heels, so maybe we could see the Space Marine pre-order. Because what else do we have like coming? It's a tricky one. I don't actually know what's coming for pre-order this weekend. Sometimes I know what's coming, so sometimes I will just have to pass that question away. But I don't actually know what's coming this weekend. Yeah, maybe Space Marines. That could be one. Say that. What else? What other things have we been waiting on? Doesn't feel like we'd see anything else from that review show. They haven't mentioned enough about Legions Imperialis for that to be a thing. Maybe it could be, you know. I honestly don't know. I think this. Yeah, because all the Tyranids coming out coming out have gone up for pre-order today. I don't know. We've got all the kill teams. We got all the kill teams released the other week, didn't we? We got all the Warcry warbands released as well when the starter set came out. Like the backdated ones. What could we see? Oh, I know something we haven't seen yet that maybe could come out and be like the head of like a smaller release window is the new Necron Combat Patrol, which is if you've seen, it's 20 Necron Warriors, the Royal Warden, the Scarabs, the Canoptech Reanimator. Um, that could be it, maybe like a Necron Combat Patrol, the updated one. That could be like I do feel we could see a smaller window, like a smaller release after Tyranids. So that could be, yeah, that could be like what we might see. Of note, for any Black Library readers as well, I'm not sure if you saw on Warhammer Community, they had the next like print on demand for Black Library with a bunch of old Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40k stories. Um, so if you are a Black Library fiction reader, go have a check out of the stories they put up. And whatever you do, please don't vote for Curse of Cain reprint. You can go pick that up on Audible. All the other stories, everything else is not currently on Audible, so vote for some of those. I mean, cutting will always be easier than sculpting by hand, or it'll require less sculpting. What about the Griff Charger from the starter set? Is he built differently? I can't remember. Is his head like maybe a little bit more separate, or check the Lord Aquila model as well? Is that head maybe a little bit more separate to use potentially? Can't remember. It's been a long time since I built those kits. The Lord Arcanum on Griff Charger. That starter set I'm talking about. Is that or the Lord Aquila's head easier to choppity chop? Okay, fair. I was thinking simplicity rather than looks, but yeah. Paladins aren't too hard because I'm pretty sure most of the things are half heads. So if I remember correctly, they're like half head on each sprue. So you can just like it is quite easy just to chop down the neck because they all have the collars as well, if I remember. Actually, give me a sec. Okay, yeah. I was gonna say Palador shouldn't be an issue. I've got a Palador kit. Oh, actually, I can see it from here. Yeah, the Paladors have collars and stuff. Fair. That's fair, man. That is a little bit funny there, Hades. Warden bikes would look nice. James, he's so sad to be painting these art boys knowing the new ones. It gets a bit like that when you know the new ones. I mean, I was that way. As soon as they like announced the new Termagants, I was still finishing off some of the old Termagants. I was just like, ah. I've got 20 Hormigons to paint there. I'm not buying new Hormigons when I have a unit of 20. That is a true point. Yeah. It'll be interesting with Old World because I definitely do think we're going to see plastic kits remade for it because they've already announced they're going to do plastic kits. They're going to reprint some old ones. So I think it'd be more like Heresy, where we're going to get a mix of resin and plastic bits for the game. I swear this person on their motorbike has nothing better to do. I've been going non-stop for the past like hour, just around the place. They're just driving around in circles. What kits am I hoping to see in the old world? Like brought back. I mean, it's pretty obvious they're going to bring back a bunch of the Empire and Wood Elf kits. I think we'll see a lot of the original Orcs and Goblins come back. I think we'll see Britannia, Tomb Kings. We'll probably see some things like maybe the Possessed from Fantasy for Chaos Warriors come back. Beastman might see. I think a lot of the replacement kits we'll be seeing, like, I think the first things will be updating. Yeah, like Southern Realms won't be. I don't know whether we'll see them too early. I think definitely to begin with, we're going to get Nostalgia. Um, I think the big releases for it originally will be Britannia and will be Tomb Kings. I think that'll be the big sort of headline. I think if we see another big release for it, it'll be Kislev, and then after that, I think they'll be looking at Cathay. I think that'll be like the big thing they sort of lead up to because they have said like they made rules for Cathay, so and like made law and stuff so that Total War could work. So the Southern Realms, yeah, like the Border Princes is probably what we're doing because they'll have like an errantry war. Um, so it'd be interesting to sort of see what we do. So a lot of the border princes actually were Bretonnian kingdoms. The southern realms like Astilia, Tilia, and all that. It'd be interesting to see whether we maybe actually see like Arabia, like Araby as a force, and someone like for like dogs of war that existed at the time, like Al Mukhtar and his desert dogs. Um, It'll be interesting. So we're going to see that focus on old world. Like it'll be those factions. We won't see a lot of other stuff. We'll probably see the Hiles come back because they have been mentioned that they're going to be part of old world. Because it's at that point where the Hiles are sort of coming in and starting to teach humanity about magic. Araby does. So Al Mukhtar and his desert dogs are actually historic, like in this time period. Lots of the dogs of war are actually from earlier time periods. Lots of the named characters, because 300 years in the past, this would be near when Gorbad Ironclaw's rocking out, I'm pretty sure. Um, is it Gorbad? Or might even be earlier. It might be Grom the Paunch. Um, Same as, I'm pretty sure timeline wise, this is going to be the point of time for when the Birdsman of Petrazar. Uh, I do like that the Fusiliers are very reminiscent of Branzigio's besiegers. They definitely took a little bit from that. I love the pointy cannon sticks. So it should be noted the Iron World have cannons because they're founded by the Dwarden. The Iron World is a coalition of Dwarden and humans. The most AOS thing they ever got rid of that was from fantasy was the Northern Skycutter. It was the most AOS thing they ever made. But with that, it is getting late, and I am going to call it here for the night because I have stuff to do tomorrow. But with that said, I want to thank everyone for coming, hobbying, and hanging out. So with that said, thank you all for coming, watching, hobbying, hanging out, chatting. I will catch you all again real soon. We're hoping to get back to doing some quite regular streaming. So with that said, stay safe, everyone, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the grey. Ciao for now.